Dr. Jazz.
Realize.
Yeah, exactly. No, but you, you know, I listened to Food the other day, and you know, Time is a Blind Guide, and all those records you've done quite some time ago. But you know, I wanted to start this talk with the new one, which is coming out, I guess, in 2 weeks, and I didn't have a chance yet to hear it. I just read about it because it's not available yet. But it
No.
sounds amazing, and I wanted to ask, you know, what's the story behind this record? You have some of my favorite musicians of all time on the album, and how did you what's the process and the story behind it?
Yeah, well, it's actually a recording that's been lying around for some time. I mean, at least the original recording, which was me playing solo. So the idea originally back in 2018, I've been in Lugano with Manfred, recording for ECM with Ayumi Tanaka and Marte Lea, and we did a record called Bayou, and which came out in 2021. And the process was a very positive and quick one. We decided to play improvised music, and before lunch the first day, Manfred said, "We have a record, and let's have lunch and mix it afterwards." And it felt very premature because we were sort of getting used to the room. The acoustics in the studio in Lugano is very special.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot of reverb. The drums tends to get easily very loud, so you have to adjust a lot. And I think it was like slightly before we, even though I'd been there a few times, but before we got sort of comfortable in the room. And I think Manfred sort of found something he was fascinated by, you know, the tryings and checking out things and seeing how things worked. And it showed a slightly different color of the band, and sort of very concentrated and energetic in a very quiet way. But anyway, to make it short, we ended up just recording for a few hours, and we were done. And the next day we mixed the recording, and ECM changed his flight back to Munich. And as we were eating the last meal in Lugano, he said, "Well, you know, the studio is free tomorrow. If you want to go up and record something on your own, please feel free to do."
Oh, wow.
And that was slightly short noticed, and so we discussed doing a solo drum recording. So I went directly back to my hotel and started making sketches and thoughts and notes what to do. I hadn't planned for making a solo record, so this was a bit of a shock to me, but also a big opportunity, you know,
Sure.
to sort of try to investigate another side of my playing. So the first thing I did was to go into the basement of the studio where the symphony orchestra had their drum apartments. So I borrowed gongs and bells and crotales and timpanis and everything I could find and put it on stage, you know. So I really had a ball. And in that fantastic room, it was quite a joy to spend a day on my own, just playing various sounds and textures, and you know, and I've always been drawn to the more classical approach of drumming, with an accurate touch and focus on timbre sounds and the sort of extended drum set techniques, and yeah, been inspired by very different drummers, like loads of classical and Japanese music,
Oh,
and
really? Interesting.
back to Jon Christensen, our sort of hero in Norway, and Jack DeJohnette and Tony Oxley, the British drummer, and also Roy Haynes, who I heard sadly passed away
Yeah.
just now. Also a big inspiration. But and I wanted to challenge the way I normally play, because I think people look at me as a very sometimes quiet drummer. I think I'm sort of, even though I like technique and all that kind, but it's music in front, and sort of facilitating others, and sort of try to cultivate a group sound. And also when I play the drum set, I try to cultivate a one big whole sound of the drum sets. That's my idea, and I like playing in the lower registers when it comes to dynamics. And so this time I wanted to approach, a bit more direct way of playing. And I mean, it's very generalizing to say, but I feel American drummers, they play a bit louder and more direct than at least many Scandinavian drummers. And it's still, I find it a bit of opposite to how I normally play. And I had that in mind, trying to visit different rooms with quite direct playing. But still with focus, on form and textures, and trying not to do the most obvious, which is obviously playing the drums, to go around the drum set all the time and play all the sounds you have. There was a lot of temptation, on the drum set and extended drums. So trying not to be too critical in my own mind and own expectations, I sort of try to find the moods and processing different feelings, and be true to sort of a concept of investigating, for instance, only gongs. Also incorporating a lot of silence in the recordings, which I like in my playing in general, and try to deduct and take away more than filling the space. But anyway, that was the idea, and I had like 4 hours recording. I made it really difficult to myself. So this took probably a couple of years, of listening, and we came into 2020, which was a special year for everyone, and still I sort of had this collection of tracks, and listened through it with Manfred, and I felt, I think to many, for instance, piano players, it would be the biggest dream to release a solo record on ECM, and probably all other instrumentalists as well, including drums. But still, I'm personally, not to shame all the amazing drummers out there and all the amazing solo drum records there are. Still, it's very limited,
Definitely.
Even though how fantastic it could be played and performed, and what kind of concepts you have. But to me, it felt, I wanted something else as well. I felt like some of the tracks I really liked, and then I think I wanted some interplay of some kind. So I launched a sort of different idea to Manfred while listening to it, which I didn't know he would be positive to do, which was inviting some musicians to add their voice to the music, which is not the normal
ECM
way
way,
of doing it at
yeah,
ECM.
interesting, yeah.
But still, you know, Manfred is a very open-minded guy, and he also likes to, you know, do different things, and he's not stuck in patterns, even though it's the normal 2 days recording, 1 day mixing. That's sort of the ECM recipe. But we started to make a list with names, and of course it took off, and it was far too many people, you know, because there's so many.
Of course.
Like, you know, you probably interviewed 500 amazing musicians, and you can't have everyone on a recording. So he made a premise that I should never have played with the musicians before.
Okay.
And that made it shorter. And then we looked at different approaches, and picked out people who could have different ways of interacting with the music. And some musicians where I thought, okay, this is quite obvious, she or him will work perfectly with this. And then others where Manfred would say, I think this person could really be challenged by doing this, you know, and different kind of music. And so we the list got sort of very compressed, and we ended up with a few very, very nice names, like Chris Potter, who he has worked with like more open music, like with Paul Motion and various, but still maybe not the most obvious choice in this setting. And then like Craig Taborn was one of the more obvious choices. We all love his playing, and he can do many different things with keyboard, synths, or piano, or what have you. And I just heard a solo concert with Sinikka Langeland, who plays kantele and sings, and I was really astonished by that, and we thought that could be a nice match. And then Manfred had just recorded with Jorge Rossy, also in Lugano, and knew that he was a fantastic piano player. So it's also interesting with him being originally a trumpet player and studying vibes and starting to play the drums. I mean, don't give that guy an instrument, you know.
True, actually, yeah.
So we decided to ask him to play piano on this.
Oh wow, okay.
So he's actually just playing piano, but the interesting part is he was so generous, and he loved the idea. And good things, you know, about this. The timing was that this was during COVID, so people had the time, even though it was actually hard to get studios. Like in New York, the studios were closed because of COVID, so that was a problem. But Jorge, he went into studio for, I don't know, 3 days or something.
Wow.
And and I sent him 5 tracks, and I said, if you want to play on 1 or 2, that's great, you know. So just choose. And he played piano on all 5 tracks, and then he played drums on all 5 tracks.
Oh wow.
And then he played vibraphone on all 5 tracks. So he made it even harder. And so, yes, he's an amazing drummer. I love that guy, you know. And everything was really, really nice. But we chose to stick to the original idea. So we picked out, 3 pieces with him playing piano. So, yeah. Sorry, long story, but that's
that's
how
why I asked you. Yeah, interesting.
That's how the record came together, and now it's finally coming out. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, how did you react when you got the tapes from Chris or Craig or Jorge? I mean, was it a big surprise because you didn't know what they were gonna do, right? I mean,
No, and they had total freedom, and some of them would ask, what do you want me to do? And I was like, do you, play whatever you want to, and
interesting.
as much or as little. And yeah, there were some surprises. What can I say? To go through one at a time, I would say with Sinica, I could hear that she had actually learned the pieces.
Oh
She
wow.
she'd
Okay.
really listened to everything I played, and she was reacting to that and sort of recomposing the piece with cantele or voice, which was very fascinating for me to hear because
Yeah.
I'd listened to it many times, but I think she knew it even better, what I was playing. So that's sort of very together. It sounds like a composition, and I
Okay.
would say it kind of is. There's obviously a lot of improvisation, but there was also a very strong sense of form of the pieces. Um, when it came to Craig, that's interesting because uh, in those pieces, it's really what I wanted to achieve by doing this, because I wanted, instead of me, following some other soloist or facilitating his or her musical ideas, it's very sort of more confronting way of playing,
Hmm.
where in the middle of his phrase I would just like go on, would do something very drastic and slightly loud, and we would do parallel improvisations, and so it gets really together and it gets really off, and
Mm.
we sort of, yeah, it's quite confronting in a beautiful way,
Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
which is very interesting for me to hear. And Jorge was very into entering the space that I created. So it's more about um, facilitating this ambience in the room and working in a very organic
Mm.
way with textures and sounds and such.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say with Chris is kind of the opposite, where he's sort of one piece is kind of a 6/8 groove, and he just goes on, and that man is capable of the most
Oh yeah, yeah.
incredible
It's
things, on
crazy.
the horn, and he really kills it, and and he, if I don't remember wrong, I think he actually heard it for the first time when he started playing. So he pressed, play and record. The same sound came out, and he started playing, and also on one of the pieces, the piece is over before he realizes it's over, and he keeps playing a little bit, and I think that was, and we decided to just keep that, instead of having a clean end. It's nice to be honest, and this is the way he heard it, and then it was over, and he's totally in it, and for some strange reason, I feel that even though there are 5 very different musicians on the record, somehow the form makes sense,
Mm.
and that's also where Manfred comes in, to create this form of
Yeah,
the
the story.
recording.
Yeah, yeah. He's good at
Yeah,
that.
there's a
Yeah.
story, and the mixing, was it's also a very important part of the recording, because I don't think it sounds. Um, yeah, it doesn't sound like it's just various recordings done in different rooms, it sounds very together, and there's one sound of the record. And but it's an interesting one, and it's sort of a result of the time we were in at the moment. And yeah, I'm really proud of that one and how it ended up being this recording. And I know that everyone is sort of can't wait to hear it, you know. And I just got a message today actually that the records have arrived at my local post office. I'm gonna go and pick them up and and see it.
You got me all
And it's
excited
coming
now.
on
I'm like,
vinyl in a couple of months as well. So that's
yeah, beautiful.
that's nice.
When did you start first working with Manfred? Was it with food or even earlier? Or
No, it was before. It was back in 2004, I think, was the first record with a band called Parish.
Parish. Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, okay.
Yes, with Bobo Stenson and
Yeah.
Fredrik Ljungqvist and Mats Eilertsen.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that was just by luck actually. We played a concert in Oslo and Manfred was here recording some other project, and he came to the show and liked the band. So that was my first meeting with Manfred.
How was that like for you as a drummer? You know, you mentioned Jon Christensen, and I mean that's for me like the epitome of ECM drum sound. I don't know, you know, those 70s, 80s records, and
that's my childhood. You
yeah.
know.
How
I
was
grew
that
up
like
listening to that.
Yeah.
I mean, as everyone else, I came from, like in Norway, everyone comes from marching bands. You know, that's where you start.
Okay.
So when I was like, I don't know, 9 or something, 10, 9, 10, I started in a local marching band playing marches and snare drum and things like that, and then started playing rock music. And then I got exposed to jazz at a quite early stage. I was about 13 or something. And the first records I got was ECM records, you know, and hearing guys like lots of European music. So I that's where I started. And both Jon Christensen and Audun Kleive, who's been like major forces in Norway, and you know the whole legacy of ECM from the Norwegian perspective with Terje Dybdahl and Arild Andersen,
and all these guys.
Jan Garbarek, and those guys. You know, it was so important when for everyone, and still is. You know, it was sort of a gate opener where they were so free in the way of playing. And there's many ways into jazz. I mean, the Americans have their legacy and you know the jazz history, and I think in Norway we have sort of our own history, where sort of course the American jazz played a big role as well, but also the fact that Norway was and still is a small country, a country not all the big jazz idols at the time visited, you know, back in the 50s and 60s, and also where musicians played in all kinds of various bands, because you can make a living playing jazz music. So people would play big bands and small pop groups and radio, TV bands and such. So so I think it was in a way easier to have less respect for the tradition in a good way, you know, that people were open-minded and mixed contemporary music, electronic music with the jazz tradition and improvised music, and so I grew up listening to that kind of music, and so meeting Manfred was a big deal, you know. I'm glad I didn't know he was at the venue when I played.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would freeze as well, man, if I knew that.
Yeah, so that was special, and it's, you know, it's grown into a warm friendship, and I've always felt very taken care of, and he's been always very open and generous to my ideas and bands, and feel he's given me a lot of trust. Like when I worked with the food records, for instance, I was always working on my own, making the records and finishing it off, and he would join mixing, or sometimes just mastering and maybe designing the form of the record. But of course, as a producer, that's where he
excels.
Yeah.
Interesting. How did you enter the scene then? You know, when I guess early 90s, mid 90s, like who were the first players you connected with? Was it the guys from Food, Arve, and or?
That was my way into the music. I think I started Food when I was studying at the Jazz Academy in Trondheim, like everyone else of my generation, and so I was in my second year of 3 years there, and very naive. I played in a local big band, and we had a project with Arve, and he had already, made a career of himself and was playing around, and I really liked his playing, and by accident I met Ian Bellamy in England while visiting a friend. That was just by accident, actually. His girlfriend was a good friend of Ian's wife's sister. Go figure.
Yeah.
And anyway, so he just heard that this Norwegian guy was coming to London, and he invited me to his home.
Okay.
Which was very generous. And I I remember I brought demo cassettes with me, playing some cassettes of some local bands I had. And he said immediately that he wanted to play with me and we should do something. And I just played with Arve, and I thought that could be a nice connection with Ian and Arve.
That's beautiful, yeah.
And then Mats and I, we were already playing in tons of bands, so it felt safe to have a bass player I knew well. So yeah, and then we got actually 2 nights at Molde Jazz Festival just by a phone call. I just rang them and said, I think I have a band, and they were so generous and went for it, and we got 2 nights, recorded the gigs, and this fantastic illustrator and multi-artist Dave McKean, British fantastic artist, everyone should check him out, film director and sculpturist and painter, photographer, and he's so into music. He's also playing himself by the way, and he really loved the band and also heard us playing live in England. So he started a label called Feral Records.
That's how. Okay, yeah.
So he started that to release Food, actually. So that's how we got our first 2 records out.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my first band.
So this was actually your band, right? I mean, you as a band leader, right?
Yes, I was the one starting it, even though the first record says Ian Bellamy's Food.
Yeah, that's why it's like
because he had a bigger name
in Britain. Yeah, exactly.
But and we went on from
first
first gig in 1998, and then we played the last gig in 2018, and then we never decided not to play. So let's see, maybe it happens again. But Ian is, he's a close friend and a fantastic composer and player. So I'm sure we'll do something again.
Yeah. It's not amazing. You did like 8 records or something, or 9. I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah.
I have a couple at home. So but it's a nice band. I love that. It's just.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting, and it was beautiful. Also my way into electronics. Working with samplers, and back at that time, like late 90s and early 2000, there weren't too many drummers working on live electronics and such. So it was, that was something I had to discover myself.
You still do that, live electronics now? Live?
Yes, I
You
still
right?
do that. And it's sort of very on and off. So at times I work a lot with electronics, and then at times I like to just play acoustic. Yeah. So it's a bit on and off. But lately I've worked a lot with electronics, actually. So.
Beautiful. Yeah, it will be interesting how you will promote the new record also. That's why I'm asking you, because it's basically, duos and...
Yes. Yeah, I'm still thinking of it, actually, how to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to do loads of solo concerts, but there will be some concerts to promote it next year. But most likely I'll wait to the arrival of the vinyl, and then
that you can
and then do some concerts.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thomas, I wanted to ask you also about your story with again ECM connection, but with John Sermon, because you're also on his last record, right? Words Unspoken, and John being another amazing British saxophone player.
Yeah.
And quite older than we are. I mean, like a previous generation. Like how did you hook up with him and playing with him?
It's there's one funny story, actually, because as I grew up with his music, I was listening to him playing with Paul Blame, Paul Motion, and Frisell, and everyone, and I've always loved his sound and also his compositions.
Yeah.
And also have a strong connection with Britain. I played a lot in the UK for 25 years. But he's together with Karin Krog, this Norwegian amazing singer. So he's been partly living in Britain and partly outside Oslo, So when I was 20 something, I don't know, 22, I heard that he was occasionally in Oslo. So I gave him a ring.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And and I would normally never do such a thing. But again, Mats Eilertsen and myself, we thought, imagine if we could play with John Sermon, So I called him up and said, hello, my name is Thomas Strønen, and do you want to play with me? And he was Thomas, I'm sure you're a fantastic drummer and a great guy, but I don't think so. and he was doing lots of projects with Jackie Jonette at that time, and so I didn't get the chance. Now, so that's the only time I've ever called someone, and he doesn't remember, actually. I told him this.
You did? Okay, you tell him.
And we had a big laugh, but this time luckily it was the other way around. But we did a celebration of Karin Krog's 85 years birthday, and there was an ensemble playing, and amongst the musicians was Rob Luft, the guitarist, and myself. And we were playing a bit with Karin and various guests to celebrate her. And at one time, we ended up playing a bit of trio just with Rob, John, and me. And it was just like really something, it was special, and there was a good connection immediately. And John came to us after we'd played, and he was like, yeah, that was a nice moment, and maybe we could do that more. And we were like, we'd love to, we'd really like to do more. And at that time, he was supposed to do a recording with Jack and with Bill Frisell, which never came to happen because people are busy with various projects and things. And he mentioned this to Manfred, and that he had a nice go with the kids. It's nice to be called a kid by someone,
Exactly.
So Yeah, and he's played a lot with Rob Waring, the vibraphonist,
Yeah.
before, and he knew that he wanted to have him in the band, so he decided to gather the four of us together.
Mm.
So I think we had one rehearsal and then did an album, and then started touring. Now we've been playing for a few years.
Mm.
And so there's a live recording coming out
Oh, really?
sometime
Oh, beautiful.
next year.
Fantastic.
And yeah, so the band has developed a lot, and it's been really fantastic to play with John. And he has announced that he has done his last gigs abroad, at least. But he's had some health problems with his.
Yeah.
He's doing a hip replacement in a few weeks. So we think and hope that I think he still wants to play more. So I'm sure there will be. At least we're going to do one concert in Oslo next year, and I'm sure there will be some more as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, nice.
And he's like a kid on stage. He's 80, and he's playing. He's in such a good shape, and he plays incredible. And he almost falls off stage because he uses 100% of his energy. But
it's all these guys, right? Or that generation. I've played like the last 3 years a lot with Arild Andersen.
Yes, it's just the same. He's a kid as well.
He's like a kid, like
Yeah.
we had like a mini tour in May and went into the studio, and then we're playing, and I look at him and he's just like this face like a kid. He's like 19. I mean,
he's giggling, it's like
exactly, like this
giving you the looks.
And it's so nice to see that. I wish we will maintain this as musicians as well. That
yeah, I can't promise.
Yeah.
I'll be a grumpy old guy.
Yeah, you're like, shit, I hate that sound. Gong
no, it's
playing
incredible. He is also, Arild is also, 100% music. I could tell you so many stories, from experiences
with Arild
him.
right? Also,
yes,
yeah.
in various projects, and we're doing a tour in springtime with his trio.
Really?
With Tommy Smith.
Oh wow, beautiful. Oh yeah, you replaced Paolo Canavinacia.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Beautiful.
So no, he's a wonderful human being,
Yeah,
and so nerdy into music, and there's so many stories, from his long life on the roads, and he still travels with his bass, which is unbelievable.
I know, that's insane. Yeah.
He said it's him and Stanley Clarke and Dave Holland, I think, who was still traveling with their basses,
Yeah, but that's why
I know
the sound,
drummers who doesn't. He doesn't. I know drummers who doesn't even carry their drumsticks, So it's incredible to
the commitment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. He's. We were in the studio also in May, and we did one take, and we were like, oh yeah, that's great. Let's do next tune, and he's like, no, let's listen. We listened, and it was a great take. It was really nice, and he was like, no, let's do another one. I was like, man. At 80, such an enthusiasm, and we did another take and it was better actually, but just, this energy, he could be like, yeah, okay, fuck it. It's okay. Let's.
Yeah.
But beautiful to see that. Yeah. And the stories of these guys, it's just.
Yeah. It's a legacy. And he's also coming with his solo record. He's.
He told me,
has a release at the same day as me, actually.
Yeah. Quite cool, right?
That's fun.
Fantastic. Yeah. Beautiful. Thomas, what's on the schedule still for you for the upcoming months, weeks, touring wise or recording wise? Are you coming to our parts of Europe as well, like Central Europe?
I will eventually, but this is maybe my favorite time of the year just now, because I've been touring constantly since the beginning of July. Until last week. So I've been constantly on the road doing different bands and projects all over. And I could feel that now, that that it's been a lot. And also, I like to compose music, and it's a big part of my life to sit in my studio. I'm sitting here now, writing music. So now I've actually taken time off until the end of January.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be at home, sleep in my own bed, and come into this lovely room every day and compose music.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So that's what I'm doing. Next year, I'm going to try to do. I say this every year, but try not to do so much touring, so I have time. Normally, I tour for some weeks, and then I have a few weeks where I can just be home and compose, and then tour again. But this time it's just been constantly touring, and so next year there will be a few different projects. Time is a Blind Guide will release a new record.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, fantastic.
Also ECM in September. So we'll do touring with that band.
Beautiful.
And then there's a few newer projects that I will work on, and also I'm going to record. I had a commission for Kongsberg Jazz Festival last year called A Tiny Little Beat, which is slightly more beat-oriented music with horn players. I've been, writing a lot for strings for many years. So this is with tuba, 2 saxophones, and guitar, 2 drummers, keyboard and piano, and also with dancers and film. So it's like a big project. So we're just looking for a date to record that next summer. So there's life continues.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Good to hear. Good to hear that you're creative and everything. So super.
Yeah.
Sir, I will let you go to enjoy your studio then. But
thank you very much. So nice to talk to you.
Too, Thomas. Yeah, beautiful to hear you, and I'm really looking forward to the new record, by the way. So and we get to meet.
And when are you releasing your record with
Arild?
Arild Samo?
I think next year it's coming out. We did already one with Arild and Bob Moses on drums.
Yes,
like last year.
So. Yeah.
Next year it's coming. This one out with Patrice Serral, a French drummer.
Yeah, I know.
Trio. I just mixed it. I have a studio here at home as well and mastered it.
Okay, nice one.
Sounds beautiful, man. It's just
beautiful. I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah, I'll send you a link definitely. Let me know what you think. Super.
Beautiful.
I hope we get to meet one day and play. Actually,
yes,
so it would be beautiful.
And let me know if you come.
I will.
To the northern parts
of
the world.
Also, we have a guest in here. You can stay here. We have a drum set here and everything. So
perfect. That's all I need.
Exactly. Cool.
Let's meet.
Yes.
Great to talk to you. And
you too.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you. Thank you for taking time.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Dr. Jazz.